After the attack of 9/11, President George W. Bush did what every U.S. president can do during a time of crisis and national emergency. He signed an executive order for a special circumstance to bring people into government that had a special skill or knowledge specific to that emergency. So I was invited to come in. It had to be authorized by the president, by the director of the CIA, who was George Tenet at the time, by the director of the FBI, who was Robert Mueller, and also by the Attorney General of the United States, John Ashcroft. So I want to share with you the most important thing I feel like the Lord's given me is to give you a timeline of when darkness got its greatest advantage in America. There was a moment. In the 1950s and 1960s, the Soviets had begun to deal with occultic practices called remote viewing and astral projection techniques. And they got so good at it that their operators, their agents, could literally astral project themselves from Moscow to Washington, D.C., and stand behind and overlook the shoulders of generals and read classified information, go back into their bodies and report word for word what they read to their superiors. This began to happen in the mid-50s all the way through the 60s. We became aware of a hemorrhaging of intelligence that was falling into the hands of the Soviets. You know what we did? We did what the U.S. government often does. Whatever the Russians can do, we can do better. And so in the late 60s, we began the same countermeasure program to use against the Soviets under the code name Project Stargate. Project Stargate was a U.S. attempt to outdo the Soviets using astral projection remote viewing techniques for the purpose of intelligence gathering. Stargate ran under the program name Project Stargate and also ran under other program names called Project Grill Flame, Project Sunstreak, Project Looking Glass. But all of these programs were using satanic techniques by psychics that our government and your taxpayer dollars paid for. And it was done by two agencies of our government, the DIA, which is the Defense Intelligence Agency, and the Central Intelligence Agency. The CIA was the lead agency on the program in the beginning. And what they would do is they would bring these people who were psychics, occultists, into this room, swore them under oath of secrecy, and they would conjure up demonic powers which was necessary in order to operate in these remote view astral projection techniques. What these guys would do, they were given some hard intelligence, they would be given certain information, and then they would be commissioned to go in the spirit world to fill in the blanks and to get all the information they could supernaturally. They put them in seats or chairs that looked like dental chairs with straps, and they strapped them in. The reason they did that is because when these operators would go into the spirit world, they would literally come into face-to-face contact with demon power that were horrific and terrifying. Our government paid occultists to go into the spirit world to come in contact with demons. I said that opened a massive gate over America. One day, I'm being escorted by the guy now in the suit and tie, and on the way, we have a lot of time to talk. And so I'm asking a guy who's part of one of the two agencies that hosted and operated Project Stargate. I said, do you know about it? He said, do I know about it? I was the official for the CIA that operated it. He was the lead manager for the lead agency that operated Project Stargate. Now, here's what he said. He said, all the operators were seeing these entities in the spirit world, but none of us in the room could see them but the operators that were strapped in the chairs. But something changed in December of 1972. One of those demonic powers, principalities, physically manifested in the room. And not some apparition of some misty kind of, am I seeing this or not? No, as real as you and I are, this demonic entity, a principality, a ruling principality in the earth, manifest in front of everybody and scared the pants off of everybody in the room. And this thing, is, he said, was 8 to 9 feet tall. Years later, he's still trembling over the experience. Here's what he said. He said, we did a deal with that principality. He said, we made a covenant with that principality that if it would give us an advantage over the Russians and give us more power for remote viewing, astral projection techniques for intelligence gathering purposes, we would give that principality rights over America. Things began to get dark in America at that point. You know what the next thing that happened in America was? Just 1 month later, January the 22nd, 1973, abortion was legalized in America through the decision of Roe versus Wade. 1 month. after the covenant was made with this principality of darkness. You see, because all covenants have to be activated by blood sacrifice. That's why Jesus had to go to the cross. He had to shed that blood because that blood became the most powerful covenant. So all this is to say we're dealing with a covenant that darkness made.